Have you ever noticed how truth rarely wears a smile? How the deepest lessons in life don't arrive wrapped in comfort, but in confrontation? There are truths so ruthless, so sharp, that once you face them, you can never be manipulated the same way again. Because clarity, real clarity, makes you untouchable. And once you see the world as it truly is, illusions can no longer hold you hostage. We were raised on a pretty story, weren't we? That the world is fair, that people are kind, that hard work always pays off, and good hearts always win. Beautiful ideals, but somewhere along the way, life whispered something else. It whispered, "Wake up." Because the truth is, the game isn't fair. Not everyone plays clean. Some smile while they scheme. Some speak of loyalty while plotting their escape. And some will praise your light only to learn how to dim it. But here's where it turns. When you stop pretending the world should be fair, you finally start playing the real game, wisely, calmly, and without apology. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Own the mind, win the day. Because the battle is never truly out there. It's inside, in the space between impulse and understanding. When you master your mind, you rise above 90% of the crowd. You stop being tossed by every wave of opinion, every emotional storm. You stand still while others chase noise. In that stillness, that unshakable composure, is what makes you dangerous in the best possible way. So today, we explore 8 ruthless lessons, the kind that sharpen your mind like tempered steel. Lessons that make you see through appearances, resist manipulation, and stay decisive under pressure. Because when your perception becomes clear, your life becomes powerful. And lesson 6, well, that one will forever change how you judge every relationship in your life. But first, let's define it. What is dangerous intelligence? Ordinary intelligence solves problems. It looks at what's already broken and asks, how do I fix it? Dangerous intelligence sees the cracks before they shatter. It anticipates, it observes, it listens between the lines. It's not the art of manipulating others. It's the discipline of cutting through your own illusions. Because the hardest person to outsmart is yourself. The Stoics called it training the mind, to see clearly, to think rightly, to act justly, even in the middle of chaos. When others panic, you breathe. When others rage, you listen. When others chase control, you release it. That's power. So, are you ready? Let's begin. Lesson 1. Emotions drive. Logic rides shotgun most decisions you make. They don't begin with logic. They're born in emotion. Then later, logic rushes in to justify what the heart already chose. It's the grand performance of the human mind. Emotion writes the script. Logic edits the press release. I once mentored a student in Austin. He told me he bought an expensive gym package because of the science, the trainers, the data. He spoke like a rational man making an informed decision. But after a few quiet talks, the truth surfaced. He had just gone through a painful divorce. What he really wanted wasn't a new workout plan. He wanted connection. He wanted to be seen. To belong somewhere again. The spreadsheets, the schedules, the nutrition charts, they were camouflage for loneliness. And that's the truth most of us don't want to admit. Beneath our clever reasoning lies a fragile, beating heart. Pause, reflective tone. You see this pattern everywhere. Online debates rarely turn on facts. They turn on ego, on identity, on people defending not what's true, but who they believe they are. In the office, colleagues may resist change, not because the process is inefficient, but because they secretly fear. Will this make me irrelevant? At home, arguments that sound like they're about chores or bills are rarely about chores or bills. They're about being seen, being valued, being loved, The Stoics warned us, people are rarely fighting about the thing on the surface. They're fighting for their pride, their place, their sense of safety. So here's the drill. When you feel the rush rise inside you, the heat in your chest, the tightness in your jaw, stop. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Is it anger, fear, the hunger to be recognized? Then ask the harder question. What decision will I regret tomorrow if I act on this emotion today? And when others flare up, don't attack their logic. Speak to the emotion beneath it. Say softly, I see why this matters to you. Acknowledge their fear before inviting them into reason. Because logic never opens the door to a closed heart, empathy does. That is dangerous intelligence. The quiet ability to read the emotion underneath, yours and theirs. The wisdom to prevent the fire before it burns down the room. Lesson 2. Everyone acts in their own interest. Now let's move deeper. This truth may sting at first, but once you accept it, your disappointment in people begins to dissolve. Everyone acts in their own interest. This is not cynicism, it's clarity. We like to believe in pure altruism, the idea that people give without wanting anything back. That our neighbor bakes cookies out of kindness, that a colleague volunteers for extra work because they truly care about the team. It's comforting, isn't it? But beneath the surface, there is always self-interest. Sometimes noble, sometimes selfish, but always there. I once knew a woman who seemed endlessly generous. She organized events, remembered birthdays, helped the elderly, always with a radiant smile. People admired her, called her selfless. But later, I learned she was quietly preparing for a run at city council. Every gesture, every kind word, was also part of a strategy. Her warmth was genuine, but so was her ambition. Does that make her bad? Not necessarily. It makes her human, because every one of us, even at our kindest, has a reason. We love because it fulfills us. We give because it feels good. We help because it reflects who we want to be. Once you understand that, you stop romanticizing people. You start seeing clearly, not bitterly, but realistically. The Stoics would tell us, don't judge motives, understand them. When you expect others to always act from pure goodness, you will live in constant heartbreak. But when you remember that self-interest is woven into every action, your compassion becomes wiser. You stop taking disappointment personally. You stop being shocked when people choose themselves over you. Because that's the rhythm of life. Everyone is fighting their own invisible battle, trying to survive, trying to matter. When you accept that truth, you don't grow colder, you grow calmer. You stop expecting saints and start appreciating sincerity, even when it's mixed with imperfection. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Seeing people not as angels or villains, but as complex souls driven by needs, just like you. And once you learn to see that clearly, you gain something extraordinary: freedom. Freedom from resentment, freedom from disappointment, freedom from illusion. Because you finally understand, you can love people deeply, and still never expect them to be perfect. And that brings us to the next realization, one that will shift how you read human behavior entirely. When does kindness turn into control? And how can you tell the difference between genuine care and manipulation in disguise? Let's explore that in Lesson 3. In the last lesson, we uncovered the truth that every act, even the kind ones, hides a reason. And once you learn to see that, you stop judging motives and start aligning with reality instead of fighting it. Because as one Stoic said, to understand the river, do not curse its current. Learn how to flow with it. She wasn't manipulative, she was wise. She understood the hidden equation of human nature. Align your goals with service to others, and everyone wins. That's the Stoic secret. Self-interest is not evil. It's human nature in motion. Marcus Aurelius himself confessed this truth. Even his service to Rome, the greatest empire of his age, was not free of self-interest. It was also a service to his own sense of duty, honor, and moral calling. Seneca warned us long ago, expecting people to act against their interests is like fighting gravity. Pointless, exhausting, doomed. So what do we do with this truth? We stop asking, why are they so selfish? Instead, we ask the smarter question, what do they truly want here? Because beneath every complaint is a need, behind every demand is a desire. And when we can identify it, we can align with it. That's how real progress happens. We stop demanding sacrifices that can't last. We start building agreements where both sides benefit, not perfectly, but sustainably. That is dangerous intelligence, the art of seeing the invisible, the wisdom to read the current beneath the calm surface, to know that every request, every smile, every offer carries a hidden purpose. And when you see it clearly, you no longer resent it. You work with reality, not against it. That's how you stay steady and unshaken. Lesson 3. Most people can't handle the truth about themselves. Now we move into deeper water. Because this next truth doesn't point outward, it points inward. Most people can't handle the truth about themselves. And that is why they never change. The harshest mirror in life isn't the one you hold up to others. It's the one you hold up to yourself. And most people, they avoid that mirror at all costs. They build stories, excuses, elaborate defenses, anything to protect the fragile image they've constructed. And so, year after year, they stay stuck in the same mistakes, repeating the same cycles, blaming the world while refusing to confront their own reflection. I once had a friend who constantly complained about being overlooked at work. Every time, his story was the same: politics, bad managers, unfair luck. But when I gently mentioned his lateness, his missed deadlines, his constant clashes with the team, he snapped, "You don't understand the situation." He wasn't searching for truth. He was searching for protection. Because truth threatens the identity we've built, and the ego would rather lie blind than bruised. The Stoics called this self-deception, a quiet form of slavery. Because if you can't see your own part in the problem, you'll never hold the power to change it. Marcus Aurelius wrote endlessly about this battle, questioning his motives, confronting his flaws, disciplining his ego. Why? Because truth, however painful, is the only ground solid enough to build upon. So here's your test. Ask yourself, what truth am I avoiding? What feedback do I dismiss too quickly? Where am I deceiving myself because the reality feels uncomfortable? These are brutal questions, but they are the gateway to freedom. Most people surround themselves with echoes, with yes men who reinforce their illusions. But the dangerous mind seeks the opposite. It seeks the piercing voice that says, "You're wrong here. Fix it." That's strength, because when you can face your flaws without flinching, you become untouchable. While others remain trapped in comforting lies, you are already evolving, quietly, steadily, powerfully. Lesson 4. Your success will make some people hate you. It sounds unfair, doesn't it? You work hard, you rise higher, you finally start to win, and instead of applause, you feel resentment in the air. Why does success attract envy? Because success is a mirror. It reflects back to others what they could have been, but chose not to become. And not everyone can bear to face that reflection. I saw this happen to a friend from college. He built a thriving business from nothing. When he struggled, everyone cheered him on, kind words, encouragement, "We believe in you." But the moment his company was featured in a magazine, the tone shifted. Suddenly there were jokes. "Guess money changed him." Whispers. "He just got lucky." People who once celebrated him began sharpening knives behind his back. But the truth? He hadn't changed. What changed was how his success exposed the excuses of others. Instead of being inspired, they felt threatened. And envy, as it often does, disguised itself as criticism. Marcus Aurelius knew this pain intimately. Even as emperor, he was surrounded by gossip, betrayal, and envy. His reminder was simple: very little is needed for a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. In other words, their poison is their burden, not yours. So when envy comes, don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Don't dim your light just because it hurts their eyes. Stand firm, keep building, let your work speak louder than their bitterness. Because this, too, is dangerous intelligence, expecting resistance as the price of growth. Knowing that success will test not only your skills, but your circle. When the whispers come, and they will, recognize them for what they are. Not a reflection of you, but a revelation of them. Lesson 5. Everyone is selling you something. Now, one more layer deeper. Once you see this next truth, you'll never look at people the same way again. Every interaction, every story, every smile, every casual gesture, is an attempt at influence. A quiet transaction. Everyone is selling you something. An idea, a belief, a version of themselves. Sometimes it's harmless, sometimes it's strategic, but it's always there, operating beneath the surface. And once you can see that, not with paranoia, but with calm awareness, you'll navigate life differently. But before we dive into that, let's pause. Because Lesson 5 isn't just about sales or persuasion. It's about perception, about learning to hear the motive behind the melody. So take a breath, because what comes next will forever change how you read words, faces, and intentions. Let's continue. In Lesson 5.2, every interaction, every exchange, carries a hidden purpose. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's disguised in charm or nostalgia, but it's always there, quietly shaping the moment. I once met an old acquaintance for coffee. At first, it felt warm, genuine, two friends catching up after years apart. She remembered little details about my life, my old apartment, my father's illness, the book I once said I wanted to write. It felt real, honest, the kind of connection that makes you think, maybe some friendships never fade. Then halfway through the conversation came the reveal. She had joined a new business opportunity. And suddenly, every question, every smile, every memory she recalled, became part of a sales pitch. The friendship was the packaging. The real product was my wallet. And no, she wasn't a villain. She truly believed she was helping, that she was offering value. But that's the point. Influence rarely arrives waving a warning flag. It wears many masks, sometimes kindness, sometimes urgency, sometimes guilt dressed as generosity. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. Surrounded by generals, advisors, and politicians, each with their own motives, he trained himself to listen beyond the words. To hear not the tone, but the intention beneath the tone. That, he said, is your shield. Don't assume everyone is manipulative. Assume everyone has an interest. And once you start asking, what do they really want here? You stop being a passive buyer in the marketplace of influence. You become a conscious chooser. Your coworker's compliment may be genuine, or it may be a quiet currency, spent in advance for your support at the next meeting. Your neighbor's cookies may be kindness, or an investment in a future favor. This isn't paranoia, it's clarity, the calm understanding that influence is everywhere, invisible but constant. This is dangerous intelligence, refusing to be lulled by surface appearances. Choosing with awareness, deciding on your terms, not theirs. When you can see the hidden pitch behind every interaction, you stop being sold and start living by choice. Lesson 6. When people show you who they are, believe them. This next lesson will save you years of misplaced trust, because people reveal themselves all the time, not in grand speeches, but in the smallest details. In how they treat waiters, in whether they keep small promises, in the jokes they make when they think no one important is listening. The signs are always there. What's missing is our willingness to see them. I once worked with a business partner who loved to exaggerate his role in meetings. At first, I brushed it off, harmless ego, I thought. Then came the padded expense reports, tiny numbers, little things. Again, I made excuses. He's just excited. Everyone fudges receipts now and then. But years later, I discovered he had been negotiating behind my back, planning to cut me out of the company I helped build. And in that moment, clarity struck like lightning. The truth had been on display the whole time. I just didn't want to believe it. Maya Angelou said it best. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. The Stoics lived by this. Marcus Aurelius didn't judge men by their speeches, but by their patterns. Seneca warned, hoping someone will change their core nature is a losing bet. So here's the rule: trust patterns, not promises. Actions, not words. Consistency, not explanations. If someone gossips about others, they'll gossip about you. If they break small commitments, they'll break big ones. If they show disrespect when it costs them nothing, they'll show betrayal when the stakes are high. That's dangerous intelligence, refusing to rewrite the story in your head just to protect your feelings. Taking people at the evidence of their behavior, not the comfort of their words. And when the evidence becomes clear, you do not argue. You do not beg. You adjust your boundaries, not their excuses. See the pattern, believe it, move accordingly. Lesson 7. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort, it feels safe, doesn't it? It feels warm, familiar, earned. It whispers, stay here. You've made it, you deserve to rest. But the truth? Comfort is a cage, a soft prison that steals your strength long before you notice it. I once knew a brilliant software engineer, sharp mind, great salary, flexible hours, work that came easy. For 3 years, he lived what most people would call the dream. But slowly, something in him dulled. New technologies began to confuse him. Conversations that once sparked his curiosity now drained him. He hadn't failed, he had decayed. Not from hardship, but from ease. Then came the layoff, and the comfort he had trusted revealed itself for what it was. A trap built of soft habits and silent fear. The Stoics understood this danger long before us. Marcus Aurelius could have drowned in luxury, gold halls, servants, endless praise. Yet he chose challenge, the grit of campaigns, the cold of battlefields, the exhaustion of service. He did it to keep his spirit sharp. Seneca practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on the floor, eating simple meals, living as though he had nothing, to remind himself that peace doesn't come from abundance, but from endurance. Because if you only accept ease, you will collapse when hardship finally arrives. So how do we fight back? We choose discomfort on purpose. We speak up when silence is safer. We take the stairs when the elevator tempts. We challenge our opinions when they grow too comfortable to question. That's how the soul stays alive, not by seeking pain, but by refusing to be sedated by comfort. And this leads us straight to our next revelation, one that few dare to face. Because even when you grow stronger, even when you rise above comfort, there's one final enemy that still hides inside you. It's not fear, it's not failure, it's attachment. Let's uncover it in Lesson 8. Every time you choose discomfort, you grow sharper. Every time you lean into fear, you grow freer. Learn the skill that intimidates you. Train the body when the couch is calling. Start the conversation that feels awkward. Speak the truth that trembles on your tongue. Each time you move toward discomfort, you forge your edge. You become a blade that cuts through stagnation, a mind that refuses to rust. Here's the paradox, the one most people never face. Comfort kills more dreams than failure ever will. Because failure, at least, teaches. Comfort teaches nothing except how to stay the same. Dangerous intelligence means spotting that trap early, catching yourself when safety begins to feel like progress. Ask yourself, where am I choosing safety over growth? What am I avoiding just because it feels hard? Then take one deliberate step toward it, because while most of the world is lulled to sleep by comfort, you will be awake. You will be alive. You will be rising. Lesson 8. You're going to die, and most of your worries mean nothing. This is the final lesson, the most ruthless and the most liberating. You are going to die. Not someday, not hypothetically, but absolutely. Death is not a possibility. It is the only certainty. And when you let that truth settle in, really settle, something extraordinary happens. All the noise that drains your energy fades. The endless worry, the petty comparisons, the constant reaching for approval, they begin to dissolve. I once watched this truth unfold in a man I deeply admired. Before his diagnosis, he was consumed by the small things, office politics, neighborhood gossip, whether his lawn looked perfect next to his neighbor's. He fought invisible battles for status, for image, for validation. Then came the diagnosis, cancer, and suddenly, the clock appeared. Everything shifted. He stopped caring about approval. He ended hollow friendships. He no longer spent energy polishing the surface of life. Instead, he gave his time only to what mattered, to love, to joy, to meaning. Ironically, as his days grew short, his life expanded. He became freer, lighter, more alive than he had ever been before. That's the paradox of remembering death. It teaches you how to live. The Stoics called it memento mori, remember death. Not to be morbid, but to stay awake, to focus, to remember what truly matters when time is slipping through your fingers. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." Seneca warned that wasting time is the one crime that cannot be repaid. So ask yourself, honestly, if I had 1 year left, would this still matter? Would I still waste hours arguing with strangers online? Would I still chase the approval of people who don't even know my middle name? Would I still postpone the dream that's been waiting patiently inside me? Or would I finally speak the words I've been holding back? Finally build what my soul has been whispering for years? Finally live, not tomorrow, not someday, but now? Because this is dangerous intelligence, the courage to strip away the trivial and invest only in what will matter at the end. While others drown in meaningless anxiety, you walk clear-eyed, unburdened, awake. Because the truth, as brutal as it is, will always be this: you will die, but within that truth lies your freedom. When nothing is guaranteed, everything precious becomes urgent. In that urgency, that spark of awareness, is where life truly begins. Conclusion: 8 ruthless lessons, each one a blade that cuts through illusion, each one a mirror that demands honesty. If you've stayed with me this far, you already carry more clarity than most will ever hold. Now the question is simple. Will you practice it? Will you choose truth over comfort? Discipline over distraction? Growth over illusion? Because clarity is not a gift. It's a choice, made again and again, every day you open your eyes. And if this journey speaks to you, if something in these words stirred that quiet fire inside you, then don't let it fade when the screen goes dark. Share it, like it, subscribe, so these reminders can find you again when the noise of life grows too loud. And when you're ready, Write just 3 words in the comments below. 3 words that anchor this message to your soul. I choose clarity. Because the moment you do, you step out of illusion and finally begin to live.